How are ya? Would you be interested in learning that I'm guessing $1 billion company? It's got to be $1 billion company, right? SpaceX, they got to be worth billions, maybe trillions, or soon to be. Even though they crash a lot of rockets in the ocean, I wonder if they have a cleanup crew that works on that. I would hope so. But SpaceX, the company that Elon Musk is in charge of, that mostly gets its contracts, its money through government contracts, which means the government uses our tax money to fund it. Would you be interested to learn that SpaceX pays next to no taxes? All thanks to, and they might never ever pay taxes again. All thanks to Donald Trump's 2017 tax cut. Interesting. Hold on one second. I gotta switch something real quick. La da 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 do da do. All right. So yeah, we're gonna talk about SpaceX. SpaceX, God, I can't believe that we have a spaceship company who wants to go to Mars but doesn't want to pay taxes. I don't think that can happen. We're going to talk about PragerU. I kept calling it the Koch brothers, but PragerU is Dennis Prager, who was a conservative, I would say far right-leaning talking Radiohead. Not Radiohead as in like Tom York, the band, as in like a dude who shipped out propaganda through the airwaves to divide people. Just a very divisive asshat. He practiced in the art of asshattery. We're going to talk about PragerU looking to make a move now that PBS's funding is all but defunded. Also, Sydney Sweeney. You might have seen her commercial. I don't know who she is, or I read she was in Euphoria. I've never seen her in anything. And, like, what is the allure with Sydney Sweeney? I hate to say it, but she's got like a little downsy look, Like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm really not trying to hate on no one. But then again, she's kind of like far right. So, those are the people. Prager douche. Prager douche. What's up, Zeke the Beast? I don't know what the allure is with Sydney Sweeney. Her one look is mouth breather, but it turns out her movie flopped. So we'll get into that. And then what else? We're going to hit a few other things for news. But first, I'm Rob. I'm your YouTube official vibe coach. Back in the 2000s, right after the towers fell, industry was just collapsing everywhere. And this little website had popped up, a social space, where you got to put your top 5 friends up for everyone to see. And Tom was obligated to be one of the top 5, unless you moved him out. Most people didn't. But Tom had created this site called MySpace. Friendly little place. I don't know what happened to it. Didn't Justin Timberlake buy it or something and trash it? But anyways, there was this website called MySpace, and people were just starting to learn what the internet really could be utilized for. Dane Cook was getting huge. He figured out the internet and somehow it exploded everywhere. Burger King drive-thru, you're welcome. Embarrassing time. That's one of my only regrets, is thinking Dane Cook was that funny. Anyways, MySpace had just come onto the scene, and there were all these 23-year-old girls claiming to be these industrial entrepreneur life coach leaders at the age of 23. And I thought, that's funny. What are you going to teach people about life at the age of 23, still living at home? And I thought it was a joke. But now here I am, almost 20 years later, going, that was a damn good idea. I mean, if you could cash in on that, do it. So here I am, your official vibe coach. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're going to vibe through the news. MySpace was dope, Zeke. Good to see you, by the way. your own page playlist. Oh my God, I forgot about that. If you were on MySpace, you know what the page playlist is. Never got that much into it. In fact, well, I was a long-time holdout. I refused to go on Facebook. I was working in radio, and everyone on the show was giving me a hard time because they all had Facebooks. And I said, nah, that old Zuckerberg is giving me weird vibes. Even back then, when it was just up and coming. And I held on to my MySpace. MySpace was a blessed place. I believe the good Lord Jesus would have had a MySpace and not a Facebook if he had returned. Oh yeah, I was a holdout even back then. And then I finally got guilted into getting on my Facebook because the radio show forced me to. And my vibes were correct. See, my vibes even back then. Here's one thing I always, you could ask my wife, you could ask the people closest to me. When I say I got a gut feeling, when my vibes are telling me something, it ain't off too often. And that should be a lesson for you too. I'm your official vibe coach. I'm Rob. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. I go live every single weekday. We vibe right through the news, which means we joke about the news because the news is a joke. But let this be a life lesson. If your vibes, that little tingling in your gut, ever tells you something, don't ignore it. Don't ignore the vibes, okay? We're going to get into some news in just a minute. Let some people stroll in. Returning formalities. Zeke, I like that. Jolene, hello. And we're going to try to keep this chat clean. That's why I have subscriber mode on. So you got to be subscribed for 5 minutos, or as they like to call it in Spanish, the cinco. Only because we get so many people. I don't know if they're bots, Albanian bot farms. I don't know if Elon's still buying bots. It's so funny. If you ever go on Twitter and call it Twitter, and you look at, I don't know, how many followers does Musk have? Hold on. How many followers Musk has on Twitter? He has 224.3 million followers, okay, on Twitter. Musk. And his tweets will get like 60,000 likes, maybe. So I just want to point out the ratio. You know, if you think those 224 million people are real, God bless you. Or as they say in the South, bless your heart. Because you would hope with over 200 million subscribers, every post should be at least cracking, you know, 1 million something. 1 million something. 500,000 something. Not 60, 30. It should be like 1 million at least, right? I always thought that was weird. I was like, this is how you could tell he spent, well, he didn't have to spend any money. He spent a lot of money buying the website to create bots to follow him and create an echo chamber, as sometimes the comments like to say. And little special surprise today. We're going to do, outside of talking about some of the news, like Donald Trump joking about the possibility of wartime, suspending elections during wartime. Trump said to Zelensky, you say during the war you can't have elections? Let me just say 3.5 years from now. So you mean if we happen to be in war with somebody, no more elections? I think he got an idea. And is that his foot? That can't be his foot. It's not orange enough. What is that? Top podiatrists. But that is interesting that he's making that joke now. So just be prepared, folks. In 3.5 years, if America's at war so he can halt elections. But then again, isn't this guy like 105? Is Donald Trump like having a Smucker's birthday every year? Is ABC wishing him a happy Smucker's birthday for staying alive another year? Shouldn't they be interviewing him on what his secret to longevity is? And he should be saying like a Big Mac a day. But this was in the news. Other people were saying he was joking about something else, or not joking, but he was saying he was attacking vote-in mailing. But let's face it, he's always attacked vote-in mailing. I think this little joke that he cracked with Zelensky wasn't much of a joke. It was truth in jest. Let's put it like that. But the other thing I want to get into the news, and this is from Newsmax. So for all you people who are like, what are you reading, CNN? No, mostly Common Dreams. But this is Newsmax reporting on this. I can't believe, I think maybe Newsmax was reporting on this article maybe to reiterate it for when he reads it later. How narcissistic is that? That the president only digests Newsmax and Fox, and they only report on him. So he's just watching himself be presented to himself through entertainment opinion pieces. Damn, you got to be a psycho. But we're also going to go over some interesting history, okay? I don't know if you guys are on Reddit, but I saw this on Reddit, and like I do, I don't know if you guys do this, but I'll see something, and then I'll go, no way. That's always my first reaction. No way. That tells you how I start reading stuff. I go, nuh-uh, prove it, which you should too. And I read this. I seen the old Theodore Roosevelt and Miss Minnie Cox, and I said, after Minnie Cox, the first black female postmaster who was pressured out of her post in Mississippi, President Theodore Roosevelt, Theodore Alvin, continued to pay her salary and punished the town by rerouting their mail, their mail 30 miles away until they gave her back the position. And I saw that meme and I said, no way. Sounds too good to be true, right? Doesn't that sound like some feel-good story of the week that the news puts on right at the end where they tell you about how some kid held a lemonade stand so his friend in his class could pay for his cancer diagnosis? And you're like, that's not a feel-good story. That's a horror story about capitalism. But this seemed like one of those. So I went, prove it. And I went right to Wikipedia. And wouldn't you know, link down below if you would like to read about Minnie Cox too, because it's good to learn shit. And this is going to tie into PragerU later. PragerU. Dennis Prager, I challenge you to a duel. Wherever, whenever, however. That sounds like a Taylor Swift song. Anyways, I did not believe that the Minnie Cox story was true. And then you go to Wikipedia and it's all verified. You can even go to other websites too. Like, this is a real story. Roosevelt initially, they forced her, the color of her skin was enough to force her out of the office. I'm talking about Minnie Cox. And then they say Roosevelt initially rejected her resignation, aware of the rising racial tension in the South and the reports of happenings in Sunflower County. You can't be racist in Sunflower County, can you? Well, I guess again. He hoped to find a more peaceful solution that would allow Cox to safely remain in the role as female postmaster, postmistress, as they called it. But then all this stuff kept happening. The white mob began several attacks on black professionals in Indianola. A black porter was accused of being rude to a white employee at the Brooklyn Bridge store, resulting in white mob's decision to close all black businesses. Because he was rude. I mean, this country has so much racism in it. It is good to learn about this, so we never, ever repeat it again. But then, down here, it says, after Minnie Cox was threatened and ran out of town, Roosevelt, the president, finally agreed to her resignation because he was refusing to. He was like, nah, you're a good lady. You're not resigning. And he allowed her to keep her $1,100 salaries through the end of her, can't read that because there's a end of her term, and effectively closed the Indianola post office, writing to Cox that this was all I could do and the least I could do. The post office remained closed for most of 1903 while Roosevelt waited for Indianola to agree to Cox to keep her in office without any issue. So he did reroute their mail. He closed their post office, kept her on the payroll, in trying to force them to stop being racist jerks. So this meme is real. And that is your little history bit for today. I told you, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm not just a vibe coach, but I'll verify memes for you. So when you share it on Facebook or wherever you roam on the internet, I do not roam on Facebook, but wherever you do, or if you just text it to friends and go, hey, little tip of the day, Minnie Cox was defended by the president and he paid her salary and rerouted the racist town's mail 30 miles away until they gave her back the position. She didn't get the position back, but it's a great story. Let's check the comments. Jessica, I'm guessing talking about Trump, narcissist chomo with power, so yeah, it all checks out. He also had the first black person at the White House for dinner, and a bunch of people refused to attend, if I remember. Jessica, I do believe I've heard that story too. You know what? I'll have to look that story up. I'll bring it to you later this week. But this was the meme I saw today. An initial reaction is always, no way, prove it. I go do a little research like I was showing you guys, and I linked the Wikipedia down below. Turns out, yeah, that's real. So just another reason to love those Roosevelts more. Not only was Teddy a defender of Minnie Cox and anti-racist, or as Dennis Prager would say, woke. I wonder if Prager University kids will do an episode of Minnie Cox and Teddy Roosevelt. You know they won't. You know they won't. And we're going to talk about Prager U later, because it's a heinous, heinous, heinous propaganda outlet for this right-wing conservative talk radio host who now has billions and is funded by fracking brothers and just real swell money. By swell, I mean ass hat money. And they've had appearances by Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, all the, you know, the names that need a safe space if you say like an Eminem's gay, you know. I don't know how our culture has depicted the toughest people in society as the ones who are like, hey, the green M&M's a homo. And you're like, heart attack! I gotta do a whole segment on it. It's like, who cares? Let the green M&M marry. Wait, is the green one a girl? I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, if you're a tough guy, Ben or Joe, you guys shouldn't be offended by who's marrying who loves who. Seems like you need a safe space. Oh, good God. It's exhausting. It really is exhausting to try to point out the irony of these people. Chief's here. Good to see you, Chief. Jessica, Teddy Roosevelt was a stand-up guy all around, founded the DNR in the national park. He did found the national parks. And his cousin, Franklin, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I wonder if people called him Frankie. Yo, Frankie R. I like to think of presidents in a less formal context. Old Theo. I know everybody calls him Teddy, but I'm sure there were people that were like, Theo. That was smooth, Teddy. But his cousin, Franklin. That's such a goofy name. That's why he went by FDR. Okay, if you guys want to know the truth. He was sensitive because Franklin is a little bit silly of a name. You know, you can't be a real president. It's just like I say, Donald. Like, you can't be a president named Donald after a duck. Franklin, same way. So he went by FDR. And he put in minimum wage, Social Security, the New Deal, put everybody back to work, saved us from the Great Depression, socialism, as they called it. But yeah, this family was absolutely amazing. Alma, green M&M shoes were changed from heels to sneakers. That's what it was, Alma. I thought like the Skylar taco. Yep, Donald Trump always chickens out. And don't forget, DJT. When you see DJT, that stands for Donald J is Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. T is Trump, or taco. Alma. So it was the green M&M shoes were changed. I thought the green M&M was like gay or something. They were so uproarious. Like Tucker Carlson, I believe, had full segments on the green M&M, and I couldn't understand. Well, of course, I don't pay attention to them. You know, it's just all look over here, distraction stuff. Release the Epstein files. But that's hilarious. It was literally changing of the shoes. I thought the green M&M came out as gay or something, and the M&Ms were holding like a gay wedding. Because I would figure, like, this has to be so offensive to Tucker and his freedom-loving people. I wonder if they sense the irony when they're like, I love freedom, but only my freedom, not your freedom. They go-go boots. That's funny. So they took away her go-go boots? Thank you for your attention to this matter. That's right. You need to look up the FDR incident with Willie D. Battleship. Oh, God, Jessica, make sure you're subscribed because you're bringing great information. I love bringing a little bit of history into the news, satirical news, because I didn't believe this meme, share it on Reddit, and then link down below the Wikipedia page. Let's actually get into some news, though, folks. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Oh, did you guys see this on Reddit? I shared it on Blue Skeet or Blue Sky, but this is fascinating. This is going around the rumor mill. Oh, I love this meme too. Why are tons of people ready to pay Luigi's legal costs? And then his attorney said, well, the Supreme Court decided that billionaires can give tons of money to candidates, and that's free speech, so maybe they're just exercising their free speech. God bless them. And then I wanted to show you guys this real quick before we get into the news. I thought this was fascinating. Paradigms. It's the way you, quote, see, interpret, or understand the world. You see the world not as it is, but as you are. And I wanted to bring this to you, not only because, you know, when I find something that teaches me something, or I like to reference it when I'm reading, or, you know, try to push myself, try to challenge myself when I'm understanding things. And this is a good book, too. I think I read it a long time ago. I don't think I have it. But when you read about the paradigms, right? It's the way you see the world. You see the world not as it is, as you are. And that struck me so hard because there were people in the chat that will say, you know, I'll talk about universal health care, and they'll get uproarious and they'll go, not with my taxes. And I never understand them. Like, what are they hearing me say? Because universal means you're included. But this is what it is, the paradigm. They see the world as selfishly, like they don't want to help anybody else and they just want stuff for themselves. So when they hear me say, they even hear universal health care, and they don't comprehend that it would be them too. They don't comprehend that they wouldn't have medical debt, that their taxes would pay for their health care, that they wouldn't have co-pays, that they wouldn't, you know, have to call an Uber instead of an ambulance. But they get so uproarious and get so angry and so selfish, and it's because of the way they see the world. So I wanted to point that out. Now we can get into the news. So I was talking about this earlier. If you didn't see it, Newsmax, this is from Newsmax, link down below. Trump apparently was joking with Zelensky, saying, during the war, you can't have elections. Well, let me just say, maybe in 3.5 years from now, the U.S. is at war and we can't have any more elections. I don't think it's so much of his joke because he doesn't really tell jokes. Just like he didn't draw, and then you saw these drawings. Well, we've never heard him make any jokes. He's not really the knock-knock president. He's not the chief master, roast master general, the roast master in chief. You know, he is not really a joking guy. In fact, he's more known for not being able to take a joke or critique. So when he says stuff like this, no more elections because maybe we'll be at war, I tend to think of that as an admission, not a joke. And that's Newsmax saying that. But in the same breath, did you see the news about Newsmax? This is from the AP, link down below. The conservative network Newsmax will pay $67 million to settle a lawsuit accusing it of defaming a voting equipment company by spreading lies about President Trump and the 2020 election loss. Interesting. Fox News paid $787 million to settle a similar lawsuit in 2023. Newsmax paid what court papers describes as $40 million to settle a libel lawsuit from a different voting machine manufacturer, Smartmatic, which also was a target of pro-Trump conspiracy theories. Now, remember, I told you that Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox, Wall Street Journal, who is releasing that these pundits, these puppets for millionaires on these channels are saying, wow, why would Rupert Murdoch release that birthday card or claim that Trump wrote that birthday card and Epstein released the files? Free Luigi. Well, Rupert Murdoch also did an interview where he said, I could have stopped these lies. He said, I knew it was a lie and I could have stopped it. He did an interview. We talked about it here on the live stream. Murdoch said, like, I could have stopped it. I could have just said, hey, no more. He owns, you know, what are they going to do to the owner? They can't say anything. If he says stop, they stop. but he kept it going and allowed it to happen. It cost him this much, but it's interesting because this is an admission. They're liars. They're not purveyor of news. They're liars. And Rupert Murdoch even went so far as in an interview said, like, I knew they were lying, and I still allowed Fox News to go ahead with it. They had to pay a settlement because the court found them to be liars as well. So I wanted to point this out because you got to be careful. You can say fair and balanced all day, but if you're just lying and biased, and the courts and the owners and everyone's saying that, then you probably shouldn't take them seriously. Who's Tom Alexandrovich? I'll have to look that up. He's drawing up battle plans invading Mexico again. Yes, that's right. I was going to talk about that the other day, and then I think we didn't get to it. But yes, you're right. He is. Tom Alexandrovich. What was it? Dorvich. Israeli cybersecurity official detained following Operation Child Target S predators. Arrested in Nevada. Internet crimes against children. What? Well, I'm telling you, between the Roblox thing, this arrest, which I'm just reading about, there was I shared in the community post. If you're subscribed, hopefully you see my community post. A trafficking ring in Alabama that had been going on for years. And it's really starting to become haunting, like Donald Trump and his whole regime. Pam Blondie, we have the files, we're going to release them. They don't exist. Dan Oingo Boingo, we're going to get the files. Now, I've seen everything. There's nothing. Cash Money Patel with his crazy eyes where he's like, I've seen the files. That's why I look like this. Who else? J.D. Vance on Theo Vaughn. Release the files, man. Everything's cool. It's horrifying that these people in power are protecting these kind of people. My sister is a trumpet humper. I'm trying to explain any of this. She always goes to it's fake news. Oh, Beaky loves Alice. That's so sad when they say it's fake news, but you have Fox and Newsmax both admitting that they are fake news. They're worse than fake news. They're liars. Like, not even fake news. Like, this is like, I would say malicious. This is malicious. Like, they knew better and they went against it. Like, they knew better. They were like, oh, we know better than this because we claim to be journalists. And then they did it anyways, which is much worse than like fake news. Because fake news sometimes can just be, reporting something wrong or reporting something too early or, there's a difference. Hopefully that made sense. He was released the next day and fled to Israel. Oh, see, I'll have to look this up. We'll talk about it this week. Murdoch has so much money that $787 million was worth the injustice. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, these people have too much money. Tax billionaires out of existence. They should just be 999 millionaires, and then they'll think twice when they have to pay a fine like this. Because a fine is just the cost of doing business. That's why I say lock them up. Hold the CEOs accountable. Put them in jail for a little bit. They'll learn their lesson. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because Newsmax now is paying because they defamed a voting equipment place. Did you guys see the Sydney Sweeney? Not the ad. That's what I think of the ad. And Sydney Sweeney, I don't know why she's a model or people find her fascinating or beautiful. She just looks like a mouth breather. Like, you want to go like this. You want to go, close your chin, sweetie. Like, shh, shh. Close the mouth, close the mouth, close the mouth. There you go. In. You want to like teach her to breathe like that because it always looks like she's like flies flying around there. And if you go, oh, that's mean, I don't care. She's reciting Nazi propaganda. Okay? Same with American Eagle. I don't give a rip because we fought a war against those kind of people. So it's anti-American. But I do not understand the fascination with this girl, and it looks like she's gone from American Eagle flap, which they're saying like eagle flaps, or like flaps, or like I don't know. But I think they're just trying to make a funny alliteration here to Americana flop. Weeks after the 4 years actor A.E. Jean's ad sparked controversy, her film Americana has bombed at the box office. It opened to 500,000. I don't even think, like, I should have looked up. What's another movie that opened to 500,000? What movies have opened to only 500,000? It said it came in 16th place somewhere down here, I think. Said, oh, right there. It ranks 16th place. I'm like, 16th? There couldn't have been 15 other new movies out this weekend. Oh my God. It says, when I Google it, it says Americana. I'm like, that's how you know it's real bad, when it's setting a record for the lowest opening. Low opening movies. And it just cites Americana. Come on, give me something else. Worst box office. It's all going to Sydney Sweeney. I'm not going to try to dig it up right now, but that's hilarious. You know, she thought she was hot shit. People were like, okay, that's what you think? We're going to put our money elsewhere. And good on you people for not going to see Americana. We're going to see Stitch IRL for the 3rd week in a row. God bless you. All right. What should we talk about? Musk's SpaceX not paying taxes? Or should we get into the PragerU stuff? No, that's not it. Where's the PragerU thing? The PragerU stuff. What do you guys want to tackle first? I said we get into this. The PragerU. PragerU is looking to make a move now that PBS has been defunded. And it's always hilarious to me that the people like Donald, who defunded it, and Musk and all their cohorts, their co-conspirators, it's funny that they complain that, like, they say PBS is woke, which it isn't. It just tries to stay historically on within the context. But if you're complaining that something's woke, wouldn't you want something that's like factual? But instead, they give you the alt-right version, which is what PragerU's Kids is. Dennis Prager, this right-wing radio talk show, he even says, he's like, what's wrong with indoctrinating kids? So this is a horrible, horrible show, and I wanted to play a clip from a YouTuber. Maybe you've heard of Pearl Mania 500, but he has a great little short on this. It's called Being a Slave is Better Than Being Killed, quote, PBS replacement PragerU. And he talks about a line from one of the PragerU, the Christopher Columbus, if you haven't seen it. Christopher Columbus is talking to kids, and he says that being a slave is better than being killed. I mean, this is the most heinous thing to teach kids. And I also linked a video down below by Zoe Bee, who worked in the educational field, and she breaks down why PragerU is not good for kids or adults, students or teachers, in an educational context. And she does a great job. That's why I included the video. But it's amazing when she breaks this down, and it's amazing to hear Pearl Mania talk about it. Zoe B even points out that in the PragerU materials to teachers, they misspell words. And she's like, for billionaires, I just would have expected you guys to proofread it. So again, down there, it is a great video. I highly recommend you watch it. But let's listen to Pearl Mania. Oh, hold on.
Being a slave is better than being killed. They want every student in America to hear that line. Being a slave is better than being killed. And that's not just a line, that's an argument. That's an argument with two options in it. Two options. I want you to listen to that line again. Being a slave is better than being killed. I want you to think through what is being offered to our children in that line. Being a slave is better than being killed. What is missing from that? What is missing from that argument? What is missing from that equation? Freedom. Freedom. Liberty. Justice. The American way. Being a slave is better than being killed. They want to hand every single kid in America an iPad and have them sit in their class and watch a cartoon of Christopher Columbus tell our children that slavery is fine as long as you aren't killing people. But even better, it's better to be a slave than it is to be murdered. I have a much shorter version of this line that actually fulfills what Americans should believe. Instead of saying being a slave is better than being killed, how about give me liberty or give me death?
I'm gonna pause it there, but Pro Mania, the way he gets worked up, is so brilliant. This dude, and Pearl Mania 500 on YouTube, subscribe to his channel. Go watch his stuff because he's brilliant. Yes, Alma, it is literal brainwashing materials, and Dennis Prager is not, hiding that. The horrific thing, hold on, is I hate that this article calls it, and this article is down below. Right-wing luminaries such as Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, and Ben Shapiro have made appearances in its videos. And like, how do you call them luminaries? The people that get upset when you say, like, the climate is changing aren't luminaries. I'm sorry. If you do a segment on the heels in Eminem, a cartoon Eminem wears, you should not be considered a luminary. You should be disinvited from the luminary group chat. Give me liberty or give me death went hard. It did in that video. That's why I want to share that with you, because I love Pearl Mania. When that popped up, whenever I first saw it, it's pretty new. I was like, good on him. Rather live a day on my feet than a lifetime on my knees. Yeah, tell that to some of these maggots, please. Why do words scare them? I don't understand. It's like when Elon Musk made comedy legal. But then if you make fun of him, he bans you. Yeah, just like the constant repeating Russia, Russia, Russia hoax. Exactly. But you should not be considered a luminary if you've ever gotten upset at an Eminem. I don't know if Noam Chomsky's ever got mad at an Eminem. I'd like to see Noam Chomsky versus the Green Eminem Celebrity Death Match, if you remember that from MTV. After school, we would come home and Celebrity Death Match would be on. And you could watch like Kid Rock fight Eminem. Oh, it was great. It was claymation. Amazing. They should bring that back. At least he gets excited. Wish the Dems would get that excited. Right, CJ? 100%. So yeah, check out Pearl Mania. But PragerU kids right-wing propaganda. This is, I forget who quoted it. John Neffel, senior writer at the research group Media Matters for America. This is a huge, scary thing. I don't know what else to call it, because this is indoctrination to extremism. And it's just weird to me that the people who complained, oh, it's leftist extremism, PBS and Sesame Street, want to replace it with, the other. It just shows you how phony they are. They don't care about anything besides their agenda. So I wanted to bring this up because you need to be aware of this, especially if you have children, especially if you hear about this. You need to know what PragerU is. It is funded by fracking oil billionaires and by that right-wing nut job, Dennis Prager. A can of nuts. That's what I should do. Draw him as a cartoon can of nuts. That'd be funny. And they host like Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro in their videos. So these are not serious people, I wonder if they'll tackle the Green M&M in one of their kids' videos. Who knows? And there's some great video essays on this stuff, and I linked one down below. Celebrity Deathmatch, yeah. I wonder if they have it on Tubi or something. It's grooming. Remember, using their words against them wins a fight. Brilliant, Jessica. That's right. They're trying to groom kids. PragerU is trying to groom kids with this. I think Trump underestimates Americans. I wish I could say that, but they voted for Jeffrey Epstein's best friend twice. I'm not saying he won the second time. I'm just saying, like, they voted for him. He was like, I alone can fix it. I will lower your egg prices. And they were like, that's my guy. So I don't know if he underestimated them. He might have even overestimated them. But listen, there's enough of us who didn't vote for him and who can see through this BS, and that's why I do this. So hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Um, Now we got to talk about this. This is repulsive. Not just the photo, but the article. Link down below. Patriotic Millionaires, an organization that lobbies higher taxes on the wealthy, wanted to say, hold on, said that the report was a reminder how unfair our tax code is. Musk's SpaceX likely paid little to no taxes despite lucrative government contracts. And if you know anything, government contracts are our money. That's our tax dollars. Hard at work, folks. Paying for this guy to blow up rockets over the ocean, claim to want to go to Mars. I don't know about you, but everything I've seen about the planet Mars is humans can't live there. We just can't. Like we literally can't. Like our bodies aren't even meant to live there. It's fascinating to watch some of these science people actually break it down. How like you could not survive on that planet. Our best shot would be to go underground or to build above ground like caves. So it's a miserable planet. No one wants to live there. I don't know who has been duped into thinking like this is a cool idea, but it's paid for by our tax money. Our taxes are going to that. We can't have healthcare, but we certainly can pay for this knucklehead to blow up rockets over the ocean. Meanwhile, he's not paying taxes. Oh, this was the headline to that article. Hold on, let me get to the... Where is it? Whoops, it was backwards. Sorry. Common Dreams. In its review of SpaceX internal documents, New York Times found that SpaceX had paid a small amount of taxes over the years, although none of them were to the federal government. In one document, the company said it expected $483,000 in income tax to foreign governments and $78,000 in state income tax in 2021. Separately, it reported paying $6,000 for income taxes in 2020 and 2021, but it did not disclose if the payments were for federal, state, or local. What makes SpaceX tax avoidance, because that's what this is, particularly noteworthy is its own dependence on the federal government for business, and found that 84% of the firm's total revenues were accounted by federal contracts. So that means they're getting our taxpayer money to keep this business afloat. Meanwhile, they're paying nothing back in taxes. And that is because of one of Donald Trump's 2017, when he cut taxes for the corporations, and then again this year, that big bill, the big ass hat of a bill, made those tax cuts permanent, which I saw when J.D. Vance went on Theo Von. He totally misrepresented it, and I was so mad at Theo Von for, having such a big platform and being so stupid, because Theo Von was right there. Could have disseminated this lie. He could have debunked the myth. And J.D. Vance said to Theo, he said, we're fighting so we don't get a tax. So we're fighting against the biggest tax raise in history, or something along those lines. And Theo was like, oh, awesome. But he wasn't. He was fighting to keep the 2017 tax cuts permanent. It wasn't going to be raising anyone's taxes. Just the corporate taxes were going to go back to what they were before Trump's last tax cut. And Theo Von didn't even know that. And I was like, if you make that much money, if you have this big of a platform, if you're going to have the vice president on, you should at least have a producer who can explain this to you. Me with my small, hit subscribe, hit notification bell, small YouTube channel shouldn't know more than Theo Von, on that. It's so infuriating. Some people think Theo Von's brilliant. They're like, he's likable. And I'm like, he just allowed J.D. Vance to lie to you idiots and didn't even say anything. He's just like, oh, wow, cool, dude. Check out my mullet. I'm like, you are bad for the public. You're bad for our communities. So anyways, back to the tax credits. It's a tax benefit, commonly referred to as a net operating loss carrying forward, that allows its use of the more than $5 billion in losses it racked up. So, because of Trump's 2017 tax cuts, they can use their losses to write off taxes. But what Trump did was, there used to be a 20-year time limit on that, and that went away. So now it's just permanent. So even if that spaceship company that blows up lots of rockets over the ocean becomes profitable, they could still use their previous losses to not pay taxes. So it could strictly just enrich Elon Musk and the shareholders or whoever the board is, or I don't think it's a publicly traded company. But it would just enrich him off of our tax money through the 84% of their government contracts that they get. So we're basically all of their business, our tax money. And meanwhile, they're not paying taxes back into the system. Could be a billion, trillion, gazillion dollar company. Are you okay with that? Are you? Company gets funded by us, and we have no control over it. It's insane corporate welfare, and even worse than that, it's robbery. The influencers on the right need some free education. Oh, they know. That's the problem, CJ. They know. That's because, as funny as Theo is, that's all he is. Nothing more than he's a hillbilly who made it and can care less. That is true, Joseph. They're just like, oh, he's a funny hillbilly. Do you know he was neighbors with David Duke? I watched this big deep dive into Theo Vaughn, and he plays it off like, oh yeah, I was really poor, really broke, and this person goes into how, like, if you were neighbors with David Duke, who's like the governor of whatever state, but also the head of the KKK, you lived in a pretty nice neighborhood, and even though his dad left, he still went to the gym with David Duke. So he's questionable at best. But make your own, just, do your own research. You can see it on Dumb Money. Oh, was that the movie with Roaring Kitty? It's a simple system for the powerful to keep everybody down. True, 100% true. But we got to bring this to everybody's attention. So the more you know. What do you think of Ann Carroll? Oh, that's a good question, man. I liked what he was doing when he started, when he blew up and went viral, and he was making those images about who owns what at the grocery store and how this is the little mom and pop and this is, 4 corporations that own everything else. But what he has dived into, especially what bugged me when he started talking about RFK and RFK's running mate at the time where they were going to run it was just a distraction. He only did that to try to take away votes from the Democrats, and then he immediately came off the ballot. It was all working in tandem with Donald Trump, and that's why Trump appointed him. But some of the stuff he was spewing about RFK, RFK is not a good dude. Not. There are certain things that, there should be lines in the sand, I believe, that once somebody crosses them, you protect predators, and you don't try to, show any remorse, or you continually protect them and wish them well, and then move them to the least secure prison available. When you do stuff like that, that's a line in the sand where I go, I can't, I can't cross that. I can never back you. I can't support, you've lost any kind of, I don't even know what you call it, because you don't really have much with me if you're doing stuff like that. And RFK is one of them. He's one of those people who's done stuff, especially with his 14 years of heroin addiction that he talks about, and then to turn around and talk about how people should just be able to go to a rehab and not understanding the cost of it, or not trying to fight for universal basic health care and keep that stuff within the plan, or talking about lists of kids with autism, and there are certain lines in the sand where I just believe you should draw them, and once those people cross those and don't try to reconcile any of the heinous stuff that they've done, even though they know better, I think it's hard for me to support anybody with that. So, in speaking about Ian Carroll, he said some real questionable shit where I wonder where he gets his money from. How's he got a nice little setup? Who is helping him get funded? And I think we need an Ann Carroll to Ann Carroll, if that makes any sense. How he does these deep dives and investigations, and he shows you how he makes his notes, and it's really cool. In fact, I've taken some tips from him on note-taking when he shows his notes and the apps he uses. So I don't doubt he's brilliant, but sometimes you got to question the motives. And I wish there was an Ian Carroll to do a deep dive on Ian Carroll and find out, what's he for? Somebody needs to get to Trump's inner circle drunk one at a time. Get them to tell us what's going on at this point. I love that. Well, if you listen, go to Michael Wolff in the Daily Beast podcast. I think they just started a new one called What's Going On in Trump's Head. Michael Wolff has insiders all over the administration, all over the White House. A lot of them have cut him off, but still, secretly whistleblow to him. And he's on the Daily Beast almost every day, and he has insights like no other. So if you want to know that stuff, go check out the Daily Beast's podcast. Most of them are drunk daily. I don't know if it's drunk, but we know old SpaceX himself admits to taking ketamine all the time. Imagine that, admitting to that kind of drug. This is where you see the, what's it called? The double standard, you know, where Elon Musk could be like, yeah, I take Special K. Not legal in the US, by the way, but can admit to it. And then the board gives him a $29 billion pay package. You're like, what is going on here? Because if anybody else was taking Special K, you would see that whole cult that follows him call him junkies and this and that. It's the same with like RFK. He could admit to having a bad heroin addiction, but somehow people applaud him when he talks down about addicts. You know what I mean? It's like, God damn. We gotta shine a light on some of this hypocrisy. All right, that was all of the news, folks. And take it with you. Well, that's not all of it, but that's all of it. You know what I mean. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Join me again tomorrow, where we'll continue on the saga of joking about the news, because the news is a joke. And share this meme. Go read about it. It's always fascinating to learn a little bit about history. It's always good to get a new wrinkle in that brain of yours. Because God knows if Sesame Street gets replaced with PragerU kids, we're all doomed. We're all doomed. You just want the next generation to be smarter than the last. You just want people to say America's the best, and they mean education and health. You know, the best at putting people in homes, the best homeowner rate for young people. I mean, anyways, who, what, where? You have a good one too. Peace. Alma, CJ, Chief, Joseph, anybody I missed. Much love. Oh, e-bagging's here. Later.